Good afternoon, my dear viewer. Thank you so much for making your esteemed presence available on this beautiful sunny afternoon. We're here in downtown Toronto on Yonge Street, Yonge and Carlton, and basically I'm going to be screaming. If I do any talking, it'll be screaming, unfortunately, because of the traffic. I want to do something that I've been thinking about for a while, which is take you down Yonge Street into the heart of Toronto. So saying we be off. So I just came out of my seeing my bail officer. You may or may not know that I'm actually out on bail, unfortunately, for yet another situation where, due to my manic bipolar kind of condition, I kind of lose it from time to time. I mean, essentially it's exacerbated, in fact, I dare say, caused by the consumption of copious amounts of marijuana. I'm just one of those overly sensitive people that essentially weed is not good for. If it was meant to be smoked, it was certainly not meant to be smoked by people such as myself. So we're passing Gerrard Street here. You can see the beautiful Ryerson University building. Some of the universities out here are growing like gangbusters. Hey, by the way, I wanted to talk about something else as well, which is more along the lines of the spiritual life, right? So, I had another one of my atheist friends come to my one of my YouTube channels, and I dare say I shouldn't probably call them a friend. They said something like, well, they essentially called me a fuck and said, religion is for pedophiles, you fuck. Well, here's my question, dear atheist friends. If you think that religion is for pedophiles or religion is all bad, what do you have to say about spirituality? Go for it, man. Go for it. Go for it, brother. Anyway, we're coming up on Yonge and Dundas, which is the heart of downtown Toronto. Whatever, dude. I wouldn't worry about it too much if I was you, man. So beautiful Yonge Dundas Square, Times Square of Toronto, of Canada, moreover. And it's daytime. It's about 2:30 right now, so it's kind of crazy in terms of the traffic, people out and about. But it is beautiful and it is heartening. There's a lot going on downtown, and Toronto certainly is one of the most vibrant, multicultural, diverse, and fully plugged in and functioning cities in the world. There's so much going on here. Like, you don't even have to pay money and you can get to go to see free art shows and movies and events throughout the year. Like, they have all kinds of events, like where they literally paint the town red, black, and green, and neon lights and artwork and all this kind of amazing stuff. Guys, going back to the spiritual life, see, guys, what it boils down to, my dear atheist friends, is unfortunately for you, it's kind of like a checkmate. If we simply bypass the question of religion. Now, myself, I am a firm advocate for God, in as much as, proofs for his existence and things like that. I don't try and preach my religion, Islam, but I do want to make known those proofs, abundant, rational proofs and such, that are available, like the praxis, the framework as it were, that essentially guide a person of faith, or should guide a person of faith. There is a misnomer, a misunderstanding at large, and certainly among atheist circles, that, well, religion is all about blind faith and believing in things that you can't see. You want to smile for YouTube, sir? How you doing? He actually smiled. All right. So anyway, let's bypass the question of religion for now. I've spoken enough about proofs of God. If this universe itself doesn't, which once again did not just pop into being and does not explain itself, if this universe itself with its wondrous laws and functioning and so forth, and the night and the day, and all those things that have been pointed out in the Quran and by men of faith throughout the ages, if that doesn't serve as enough of a proof for the existence of God, dear viewer, then I dare say let's just bypass the question for now. In terms of spirituality, now, there may be some die-hard militant atheists who say, well, spirituality is all for the birds too. And you see, that position in and of itself would be correct in as much as the spirit, this is where it gets tricky for atheists, in general. If you start talking about spirituality, then dear atheist friends, then you've got to accept one of two things: either the existence of a soul or a spirit, or at least a realm of being and thought and feeling and existence that transcends materialism by definition. Spirituality only begins where materialism ends. Spirituality is actually ultimately about being connected to God, right? And essentially is a feeling. It's a feeling of being plugged into something larger than yourself, something that gives meaning to the chaos, the supposed chaos and, meaninglessness of, material causation and what have you. Now, here's the thing. The real problem with atheism is that it doesn't provide any answers. Atheism is simply materialism. Now, on the one hand, wait for YouTube, effers! Let's have a hoot, eh? A lot going on. So this is Front Street. That's Grand Union Station over there. You can see CN Tower in the background. So I basically have to go to see my psychiatrist, as it were, right now. And so this is the Union Station, GO train terminal. Wait for YouTube, effers. Do it, man. All right, coming out of the tunnel. Hopefully we get some better acoustics. All right, so okay, spirituality, by definition, includes questions of spirit. Now, I have to give kudos to, obviously, Sam Harris, leading atheist of the day, who, you know what, he believes in spirituality. And I've listened to his podcasts and speeches. I haven't read anything of his. I'm more of a listener sometimes, I guess. Or I've become more of a listener. I read plenty, I just don't happen to have a copy of any of his books. Moral Landscape or The End of Faith or his new book. His new book is called Waking Up, Spirituality Without Religion. Oh God, don't hit me, don't hit me. Don't hit me! Thank you. All right, so I gotta go down to St. Joe's Medical Center, and I'm taking the scenic route. I was gonna take it anyway. I might as well pretend I'm taking it for you, my dear viewer. Okay, so spirituality, by default, includes concept of spirit. Now, Sam Harris is intellectually forthright enough to admit that this is one of those areas that he has not, reached a conclusive position on, in as much as, is there a soul? Is there a spirit? He very artfully, and not in a bad sense, but in a very good sense, he discusses the question in as much as, Well, in order for there to be a spirit, what does that actually mean? What does it mean for there to be a soul? Now, he's a neuroscientist, right? Basically a brain scientist, in as much as whatever neuroscience entails, I don't know what it entails. But he asks logical, scientific questions. He says things like, well, and they're great questions, and they're questions that people of faith need to think about and formulate answers to, or at least allow these kinds of questions to inform their thinking. Are you going to settle down? You got a run of the town, eh? Spoiled little pop star. Give it up, Toronto. All right. Oh, look at us out on a lovely afternoon walkabout with our teacher. Okay, so Sam Harris asked the following question. He says, he basically puts forth this kind of conundrum with regards to belief in the soul. He says that as you grow old, your brain begins to deteriorate. Okay? Now your brain begins to deteriorate to the extent that you begin to forget things. I used to work at these beautiful buildings here, these two twin towers. They're called the Waterfront Club Condominium. Waterfront Condominium. You know, God is great. Just because of my accent and all this kind of rubbish, and I show up in a suit, when I was working in the security field, I used to get plonked at these amazing sites, eh? People up here, like who live in these places, some of them are, nice shades, man. Some of them are actually multi-million-dollar type big rollers, eh? And you've literally got a situation. Go for it, man. You don't have to glare at me, man. Just move it along. You've got a situation where you literally have people who can see like CN Tower out of their bathroom. So you're basically taking a poop and literally right across the road from you is CN Tower. Now, on a side note, because I'm given to digressions, I might as well say that, you know what? In the world of material causation, I was just writing a poem about it. You see, whatever we seek in the external world, in as much as things, things that will fulfill us and make us happy, it's like Imam Ali said, peace be upon him, that everything loses its flavor except everything in life loses its flavor except life itself. So you can see some of what's been going on, or what is going on at the waterfront here, like tents and bazaars and shops and people out and about. But I'll tell you once again, just like the guy sitting in his bathroom and he's looking at CN Tower, average Torontonian takes all of this in, and in a heartbeat it's gone. So what I'm trying to say is that if you seek happiness or fulfillment in materiality, this is the problem with atheism once again. It doesn't provide meaning beyond what? There's no questions. There's no answers. There's just questions. Rogers Center with CN Tower right next to it actually looks like a mosque, eh? So this is the beautiful harborfront, waterfront kind of area, and I used to actually bike back home from work here every day. And it is gorgeous. Another reason to visit Toronto. But just like I was saying, the guy who's taking a poop looking at CN Tower every day, the novelty of that situation wears itself off. And the novelty of having all of your friends admiring you for living in such a beautiful place and so on and so forth. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. There is a part of us that seeks fulfillment. Now, the unfortunate thing is this. You might ask me, why are you religious? And I will say because religion brings me closer to God, and it actually is the source of my spirituality. And my spirituality is everything. Right? Like right now I'm practically penniless and, you know, like living like literally yay close from being kicked out on the street. But I'm immensely happy, eh? And I think at the end of the day, most people would agree that obviously happiness is what's most important in life, dear viewers. So, going back to the question of spirituality vis-a-vis atheism, Sam Harris brings up this great point, which is that as your brain deteriorates, dear viewer, you begin to forget things to the extent that you forget your own identity, to the extent that you forget who you are, where you are, and essentially, ultimately, you become some kind of disembodied awareness, which is essentially devoid of any understanding of the world at large, let's say. So, Sam Harris poses a very cogent question. He said after a brain has deteriorated, you know, due to Alzheimer's or beautiful doglings or what have you. Look at me, I'm so pretty. After all that's happened, are we to assume that okay, so once again, the brain has deteriorated. A person is no longer cognizant of who, where, what, why, where from, or whatever. They are just some kind of, if anything, just life with consciousness. It might not even be self-aware. Who knows what's going on in the mind of someone in the depths of a coma, for example. Or that amazing Metallica song, One. When you look at the video, they have, obviously, sketches from the movie Johnny, something like Johnny got his gun or Johnny lost his gun, eh? And beautiful Toronto, Condo City, leaving it behind us, venturing forth. I'm still not late, but I am probably approaching being late as we speak, eh? I just hope I get to see my psychiatrist today, because it's part of my court conditions, eh? That I have to be a good boy and, you know, take my medication, and basically I know what I need to do, which is not smoke weed. As long as I stay off the good green, I should be fine. Are you turning or what? All right, so back to the question of the soul. So, legitimate question. If the brain has deteriorated to the point of there being no awareness / self-awareness, are we to then assume that at the moment of death, this sense of self and all the familiarity that we're used to magically arises in the form of quote-unquote a soul? Well, my answer to Sam Harris, first of all, you know, once again, I would laud the man for actually raising this kind of question. It's a very cogent question. On the other hand, what needs to be said, what needs to be said is this. Spirit is not material. That's the whole point. Spirituality has nothing to do with materialism. The thing that the sense of self that is generated by our brain is very different from our soul. Of course, it's hard to talk about what happens when a person dies and their brain functions deteriorate. However, you know, there is a whole body of knowledge about out-of-body experiences and spiritual experiences and so on and so forth. I guess, once again, what I'm trying to say is the following. It goes back to spirituality, and it goes back to the kind of checkered position that a so-called atheist who's also a spiritualist, which are, you know, the true free thinkers of the world, essentially. Spiritual atheists, right? Or anyone in search of answers who essentially takes on a cogent and rational approach, right? As opposed to just listening to other people and being informed by conditioning. So the real thing is this. Do you or do you not believe, oh God, this is going to be fun, the dog yard. Come on, give it up. Oh, less responsive today. There's one little yipa there. Anyway, here's the thing, guys. What it boils down to is materialism and empiricism, and believing that there's something there's something more than just materialism and empiricism and materiality, right? So that's really the crux of the whole question. The crux of the whole question is, do you believe in things that are not material? In fact, once again, I will go back to the beautiful quote by Helen Keller. Helen Keller said, "The best things in life cannot be measured or seen or touched or felt," and so forth. And what she was referring to were things that I often touch upon in my discussions with my beautiful atheist friends. Things like love, things like beauty. Now, you might say that love can be measured empirically in terms of chemical reactions. But love itself, I mean, that is just an indication of love. Hey, in the same way you can measure, sublime spiritual states and prove God through the existence of yogis and whatnot who manage to essentially alter the pattern of their brain waves and go into non-ordinary states of trance and relaxation with, I don't know what they're called, beta and gamma and delta brain waves and so forth. Once again, that would be the reason or a proof or a purpose or some indication around the concept of the validity of spirituality as a whole, right? The fact that we can enter non-ordinary states, and in fact, we seek to transcend materialism. This is the thing. We seek to transcend. So there's a CN Tower poking up in the background. This is Ontario Place. It used to be this beautiful, wonderful water park / aquarium / all kind of goodness center. And right now, I don't know. I think the government's kind of undecided on what they want to do with Ontario Place. All right, so question of spirituality. So here's the thing. Spirituality begins where materialism ends. That statement is enough to explain the existence of God and the soul and the supernatural. That statement is the linchpin behind which the whole thing is based. The whole thing is this. From a material perspective, from the perspective of the average atheist, you need to have an evidence-based approach, and you need to talk about proof and so forth. Now, once again, there are proofs, but those proofs are logical proofs. Proofs for the existence of God are logical in the sense of we see physical laws. Does it make sense to say that physical laws that govern everything? I mean, the supposed science that religion, the very science that religion supposedly, the very science. Oh God, I'm running. It's too noisy, dear viewer. Anyway, I'm about to sign out, so no worries, eh? You can see the ducklings treading the path like they own it, which they don't, by the way. There you go. Okay, the science itself, which is supposedly the science itself, which supposedly runs counter to religious thought, proves God. Where did all these natural laws come from? To say that they just are makes no sense. There is only one alternative, which is to presume the existence, obviously, of a lawgiver. Now, once again, the system of the universe sorry about that, mate. Hey, the system of the universe cannot explain itself. Any system cannot explain itself. The laws of the system can be used to describe and predict phenomenon within that system. So when we're looking at the universe at large, and just the sheer amazingness and, dare I say, infinitude of everything that's around us, we can't find answers to the universe within the universe itself. Anyway, going back to spirituality and spiritualism. You see, the funny thing is this, that if you want scientific proofs for the existence of God, there are scientific proofs. And as the age advances and as science progresses, God makes available proofs of his existence in a language that would satisfy the most ardent and most perspicacious, there's a word like that, trust me, of truth seekers. Now guys, you've got this thing called the cosmological constant. Okay, so as many people know, oh God, I'm going to fall off the path or something. Something horrible is going to happen any second, eh? So here we are. Isn't it gorgeous? It's just gorgeous. But here's the thing. If you come here every day, you know, after a while, I dare say, I mean, what I'm trying to say is this. Maybe, I mean, it's hard for me to say that the novelty of all of this wears off. But when I used to ride back and forth along this very route on my way to work, I dare say that, you know, it was more of a chore after a long shift or etc., you know. But on the other hand, if you come out into nature seeking to detach yourself from material causation, seeking to detach yourself from all the associations tied up with the material world, you know, work and cars and people and bills, you will actually find a lot of relief. It's like the Quran says, that nature becomes tabsiratul lin-nadirin. It becomes a source of wonder and a source of pleasure. Actually, guys, here's what it boils down to. At the end of the day, spirituality is a feeling. God is a feeling. Now, there are logical and rational proofs, just like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that for every conviction there should be a proof. So if you believe in God, if you're convinced that there is a God, there should be proofs. And by the way, once again, you look around at the amazing universe, the so-called intelligent design theory. Richard Dawkins, eminent atheist of the time, whose seminal work, The God Delusion, I've rebutted in my less well-known No God Delusion, as yet unpublished, apart from on my blog. So he says that when you look at the universe at large, so this is what Richard Dawkins says. When you look at the universe at large, it simply appears designed. And really what it is it's evolved. You know what? that's just a cursory explanation and a cursory remark that really won't satisfy a truth seeker, because regardless of what you say about the universe, Assalamu alaikum, regardless of what you say about the universe, dear user, the fact of the matter is this: you'd have to be a complete idiot to look around you and not realize that there's something going on, right? There's something going on, so, behind the scenes, as it were. There's something amazing going on. Like, this universe is amazing. It doesn't explain itself, and it is powered by, infinite intelligence. The more that you observe of this universe, the more it reveals its wonders to you, just like God. The whole thing is a manifestation of His wonder and His might. You put a leaf under a microscope, your mind gets blown away. Then you put the same leaf under an electron microscope, and those wonders are increased manifold. Then you look outwards with a telescope. There's no end to it. Whatever facet of the universe, down to society and the principles that form, civilizations and all these kinds of things, there's laws and there's sciences and there's ways of doing things. Now, we're kind of going around in circles. I hope I've made some sense. I hope at the very least I've convinced anyone who watches this that religion is not about blind adoption of some creed or dogma. The purpose, as it were, of religion, guys, is to actually go with the flow, as it were. To actually fall in tune with the way of the universe. When you do things the right way, you get results. And you find, inner peace and meaning. Man, by nature, is seeking to transcend his condition. And unfortunately, man looks towards material phenomenon in order to satisfy this urge to transcend your present condition and to find meaning. On the other hand, save yourself! Save yourself! Save yourself. On the other hand, there's a beautiful verse of the Quran. Ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. That it is through the remembrance or through communion with God it's through communion with God that hearts attain rest. Basically, love cannot be proved or disproved. Love just is. You either feel it or you don't. In the same way, God can neither be proved or disproved. You either feel Him or you don't. Hey, there's plenty of rational proofs as to the existence of God. Once again, the whole universe and things of that nature, and the fact that everything has a purpose, everything points to something else. Nothing explains itself, right? And so there needs to be an uncaused cause that is that's essentially the explanation for everything. Now you'll say, well, that's simply saying God did it, blah, 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 blah. No, listen. You see, when you reach the crucial junction of God did it, there is only one explanation. We're not saying that, you know what, you make it sound like religious people and theologians are a bunch of idiots. That we refuse oh God, the traffic's killing me. All right, I'm done, eh? I've had enough of this shouting and screaming, and besides, it doesn't make a difference. It's like Imam Ali said, peace be upon him. There's enough light for one who wants to see. So there's good old St. Joseph's Medical Center right on the other side of the bridge. I'll give you a view of the traffic on the Gartner, dear viewer. And I guess call it a day, eh? Beautiful Toronto, lovely day. Come visit, etc., etc., eh? So, wrapping it up, why do I believe in God? Well, like the Quran said, as I just mentioned, Ala bi decrying tatma'innul qulub. It's through the thought of God and through communion with Him and attaching yourself to Him and reaching out through meditation and through spiritual rigor and discipline, which includes, by the way, the epitome of morality and virtue. Obviously, the Taliban are not religious in my eyes. Obviously, you know, pedophile churches and whatnot have got it all wrong. However, at the end of the day, believing in God and feeling Him is something which is so indescribable that, you know what, you could give me the whole world literally, but if you took away my connection with God or this so-called imaginary being, then you could basically just stuff it, eh? So we're on the other side of the bridge. It's just under 40 minutes. I guess that's like the average Zaidi Boy video at this point in time. And so we'll call it a day. Thanks for watching. See you later.